la 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 la. Hey, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Page 10, everybody. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Rhythm, please. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Tori's got it. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, hine matov. Ya la la ya la 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 la. Hine matov, hine matov. Ya la la ya la 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 la. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad.
How good and how pleasant it is. We are kind of here with our technical, praying shouldn't be this difficult. Hi, everybody. I'm Rabbi Silvers. We are privileged to have with us Rachel Sherman, our Director of Education here at Congregation B'nai Israel, and Miss Susan. We're filling in.
We are.
We're filling in for Rabbi Keller and Kender Muchnick. And boy, yeah, we are filling in. Yeah. So I welcome everyone here in the sanctuary, and I welcome everyone, hopefully on the live stream, that can actually see us. We think we solved the live stream problem.
I think we did.
So that's a good thing. So what?
We have
Wasn't working last week. But this is a new week. This is a new day. It's a brand new day. Right, Miss Susan?
That's right.
Brand new day. Okay. My microphone's not working, but this one is. So,
Right.
okay.
It's all good.
So welcome. Shabbat Shalom. Nice to have everybody here.
Shabbat Shalom.
I hope you'll pray along with us, that you grabbed a prayer book when you walked in. It should say a Reformed Siddur, Shabbat. So you know you're in the right place if you have that. All right, so we're all going to do our best to help us connect and pray. And we're going to begin our service this evening. Miss Susan's got it going already. Miss Rachel is going to do our candle lighting. You can follow along on page 2 and 3 in the prayer book as we welcome in the beauty, the warmth of Shabbat as we light our Sabbath candles.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. All right, and on page 4 and 5, we'll join together in the Kiddush prayer. Okay, let's get this wine. That's good. I need more than one.
It's been a week.
Look what you're doing. All right, let's follow along on page 4 and 5 for Kiddush. Vayechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzevam vayechal Elohim b'yom hashvi'i melachto asher asa vayishpot b'yom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa vayivarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i vayikadesh oto kivo sheva mikol melachto kivo sheva mikol melachto asher bara Elohim lasot Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kadsho b'yavav ratzon hinchi lanu zikaron lemahaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim Kivanu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat
Amen.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. Yes, a fine vintage.
It comes from the vineyard of. That's located in the south of France.
Yes.
Can you tell? Okay. All right. So we've made Kiddush. We've lit our Shabbat candles. And now you can follow along in the prayer book for Kabbalat Shabbat. Ms. Rachel is going to help us celebrate literally, the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat represent the days of creation, and that gives glory to God for God's creative abilities. So, because this is the seventh day, God creates this beautiful day of rest. We go through all of creation through the Psalms, bringing us ultimately to the Sabbath. So, we're going to begin on page 13. Miss Rachel is going to start with Shiru Ladonai.
Shiru Ladonai kol haaretz. Shiru Ladonai shir chadash. Shiru Ladonai kol haaretz. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. Sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru Ladonai
Kol haaretz,
Shiru Ladonai shir chadash.
I will sing unto God a new song.
That was lovely. So we're going to continue to sing unto God lots of songs. We're going to turn to page 17. At the bottom of the page, you'll find the words Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'ishtachavu lahadam raglav ladom raglav Kadoshu. Blessed is God, holy is God. So exalt Adonai our God, bow down to God. God is holy, exalt God. So Miss Rachel's going to continue at the bottom of 17 with Romemu.
Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu v'har kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu lehishtachavu v'har kodsho. Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu Lehar Kodsho Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu Lehar Kodsho Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu Lehar Kodsho Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu Lehar Kodsho.
Aren't those great words? Exalt Adonai our God and bow toward God's holy hill. It says holy hill in the prayer book. I kind of like holy mountain better. That's a har, right?
Yes.
Mountain. Oh, the live stream's going nuts.
Okay.
All right, so God's holy hill, God's holy mountain, that's where we're bowing toward, for Adonai is holy. And you know what? God made the Sabbath day holy. And what we do to ascribe this holiness to God is picture this idea, there is nothing holier than finding your beshert, than finding your soulmate. Look, I'm getting nods of agreement. And what we have this beautiful song, Lecha Dodi, which gives us this great imagery of the Sabbath bride who is betrothed to the Jewish people. And the mystics used to run out into the fields overjoyed with this idea that, oh my God, the wedding is coming, the bride is coming, the Sabbath is coming. There's nothing more joyous than the opportunity to have your beloved with you. So, we sing Lecha Dodi because we are joyful in the fact that we now become wedded to this seventh day. Week in and week out, we get to celebrate this wedding, this marriage between us and the Sabbath. So, we're going to turn to page 20 and 21. And Miss Rachel and Miss Susan are going to sing with great joy because the bride is going to enter. We're soon to see the stars come out and the sun go down, and the bride will be here before we know it, and we will have this loving embrace of this seventh day, this day of rest. Page 20, we're going to do verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And when we get to the last verse, verse 9, that's when we're going to rise. We're going to turn toward the back. The doors are going to magically open. And we are going to see this beautiful image of the Sabbath bride. Lecha Dodi. Here we go. Page 20.
Lecha Dodi, Likra Kala, Pene Pene Shabbat Nekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likra Kala, Pene Pene Shabbat Nekavela. La 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 Lecha Dodi, Likra Kala, Pene Pene Shabbat Nekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likra Kala, Pene Pene Shabbat Nekavela. Likrat Shabbat Lechru V'Nilcha, Hihi Mekor HaBeracha, Merosh Mikadem Nesucha, Sucha Aseh B'Machshavat Tchila, La 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 Lecha Dodi, Likra Kala, Pene Pene Shabbat Nekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likra Kala, Pene Pene Shabbat Nekavela. Verse 1, Shamor B'Zachor B'Dibor Echad, Chishmianu El HaMeyuchad, Adonai Echad, U'Shemo Echad, L'Shem El Tiferet Beliti, La 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 La, Lecha Dodi, Likra Kala. פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, אורי אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני אלייך בגלל לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Please rise.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לה 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 לה. לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
You may be seated. Now that the Sabbath bride has arrived, we are ready to rejoice in this, the seventh day, Shabbat, and we make the transition to the formal evening service, to the Mariv service, as Miss Rachel will chant for us on page 26, Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ויעמד יברח ירתה וימלך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחייך בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב יאמרו, יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם עולם מעלמיה יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי לקודשה לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמא יאמרו.
Amen. The imagery is to stand before the very throne of the sovereign of the universe and bow in reverence to God. So let's rise for the Baruch Hu on page 28.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you
Top of page 31, let's read together in English. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. And at the bottom of 32, we continue together. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema
Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Vahed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Vahed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. You may be seated, and on page 36, let's join with Miss Rachel and Miss Susan as we join together in the chanting of the Ve'ahavta prayer.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meodecha v'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'veitecha, uv'lechtecha v'derech, uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha, u'kshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uv'isharecha, leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, V'tem kedoshim l'Elohechem, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, lihiyot lachem l'Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem.
We can imagine the fear, the anxiety our ancestors had as they left Egypt and stood at the shores of the Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds, waiting to ultimately find freedom, find redemption, fulfill the promise that God had made to them by taking them out of Egypt with a mighty hand and outstretched arm. We understand that this beautiful reading that's on top of page 39 speaks to us of how it's eternally Egypt, that we are constantly find ourselves in these narrow places. As much as we take solace and we find joy in the Sabbath day, it's impossible for us to leave behind the difficulties, the struggles, and the challenges we face in life. It's not so easy to put them aside for 24 or 25 hours and think only of joy and happiness. A bit of Egypt resides with all of us in some regard. And the only thing that seems to make it better is the fact that it's a shared experience. Yes, our individual circumstances may be unique and might be different, and they are ours alone. But nonetheless, we understand that everyone has their Mitzrayim. Everyone has their narrow place. Everyone's life has its struggles. And perhaps it's the solace and the comfort of knowing that we are not unique. God did not single any one of us out for trouble and despair. It seems to be spread out equally amongst all people at some time in their life. And if we understand that our ancestors stood there not alone, but in this multitude, hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, ready to leave Egypt and find hope, find renewal, find sustenance, and find a new way of life and living, that promise that exists beyond the sea, that we too can find that hope and that optimism by sharing the difficulties we have with others, knowing that they are there with us, all of us struggling to stay afloat in the sea. So, know that this community that we call CBI has caring individuals here to help others in need. And I pray, and I know personally for myself, how many people have reached out in my own difficulties and troubles to let me know that they are there for me. If we do this, if we can rely on one another, if we can grasp each other's hand and walk through the sea as our ancestors did, ultimately, optimistically, we will find our redemption on the other side. Let's continue on the top of page 40 as we join together in singing the song of redemption, the song of freedom, a song of hope for us all. Mi chamocha.
Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh Nora tehilot osei fele Nora tehilot osei fele Ma'ochetecha uvanecha Bokei hayam litema shel Miriam Ze'elianu ve'amru Ze'elianu ve'amiru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Ya la 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 Ya la 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 Ya la 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 ya la 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 Ya la 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 ya la 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 la
Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael, we praise you, eternal God, the one who redeems the people Israel. On page 42 and 43, we find this beautiful evening prayer. One of my favorites, the idea of lying down at night knowing that God is there protecting us. In fact, if you look at the English at the top of 43, this beautiful interpretive English for this prayer, we get the gist of what this is. That life has its storms, life has its difficulties, and that God help us to walk with good companions The idea that when we share our lives with others, we can indeed find shelter. We can indeed find protection from the ill winds that blow our way. And it is also to God we look to spread over us that tabernacle, that shelter of peace, helping us survive the difficulties of life. So we're going to continue with Hashkivenu on page 42.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, V'hamidenu Shomrenu L'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, V'hamidenu Shomrenu L'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, V'hamidenu Shomrenu L'chaim. L'chaim.
We reach now the central prayer of our evening service, as it is the central prayer of all three of the daily worship services in Judaism. Our ancient rabbis simply refer to it as HaTfilah, the prayer, for it is considered the prayer par supreme of our liturgy. It's also known in our tradition as the Amidah, the standing prayer, for when recited, all of us stand together in solidarity, in companionship, and we stand facing our eternal city of Jerusalem, inclining our hearts and our voices in prayer. So let's all rise now as we turn to page 46 and prepare for the prayer.
Adonai sifata tiftachu fiat gitahilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasei Avot v'Imahot, Umevli Gula Livnei V'nehem, L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshiach Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol Atah Rov Le'Hoshiach, Mashiv HaRuach Umarid HaGashem, Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Mech Noflim Verofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Givurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memidu Mechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללו חסלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Let's continue individually, silently, from pages 54 through 62, offering any of the prayers you find here in the prayer book or whatever prayers your heart may prompt. And when you conclude, once again, you may be seated.
יהיו לרצונים רפי, והגיון ליבי לפניך. יהיו לרצונים רפי, והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. יהיו לרצונים רפי, והגיון ליבי לפניך. יהיו לרצונים רפי, והגיון ליבי לפניך.
Thank you, ladies. Okay. Good Shabbos, everybody. Okay. All right. Boy, I don't know the last time I gave a sermon. I'm nervous. Wait, I'm going to get all my stuff here. That's fine. It's good. We're good. Okay. Slowly, loudly, and in the microphones. So if you were to think of the worst day of your life, there's kind of a theme going on here tonight for me. If you were to think of the worst day of your life, what would it be? There are so many different answers and so many different possible ways of having a terrible experience that the constellation of tsuris is as wide as the world is broad. In fact, the well of pain seems endless. I think the writer of Ecclesiastes must have felt that way also when he said, the day of death than the day of one's birth. Talk about being in a lousy place. One of the truths about Jewish tradition and culture is that we wear our troubles on our sleeve. Prophets were always complaining about their troubles. Job speaks about his troubles and doubts for an astounding 42 chapters in our Tanakh. And Ecclesiastes goes on and on about how useless everything is. I suppose that is the origin of the joke about the waiter who, upon waiting a table filled with Jewish patrons, asks, "Is anything all right?" Ours is indeed a tradition of complaining. After all, what is a complaint what is a complaint other than the expression of a desire for something to be better? In fact, this entire nation is built upon complaints. We complained to the British. We complained to slaveholders. We complained to the racists, and so on and so on. In fact, complaining is the first step in being a prophet. Prophets do not soothe first. They kvetch first. And then, and only then, do they bind up their wounds later. There are good reasons to complain. And on one particular day long ago, Moses and his brother Aaron had lots of reasons to just want to go home and forget about everything. In this week's Torah portion, the culmination of the dedication of the tabernacle is all set. And on the 8th day, Aaron and his sons are about to be ordained as the Kohanim, as the priests. Everything is moving along like clockwork, and then the unthinkable happens. Aaron's sons, Nadav and Avihu, offer what's called, let's call it alien fire, an unauthorized sacrifice upon the altar, and poof, just like that, God turns them into ashes. Even though we have no indication of exactly when it happened, the story can be easily read as if it happened right after Aaron and his sons were all ordained. It is as if the new rabbi rode into town and immediately upon arrival is proceeded to be dismissed, disregarded, and disrespect everything and everyone who came before. Not that, God forbid, anything like that could ever happen. And so, Aaron was the new high priest, and on the same day lost his 2 sons. But wait, the day is only beginning. Right after that event, there's another sacrifice, this time by Aaron's 2 other sons, Eleazar and Itamar. When they make their sacrifice, they do it in the wrong place and seem to do it all wrong. Upon seeing this, Moses basically freaks out and loses his temper with Aaron and with his remaining 2 sons. It takes a much calmer Aaron, remember the same Aaron who had just lost 2 sons, to explain to Moses why his sons were right and did what they did. Moses agrees. The text tells us, and it was good in his eyes, which can be easily understood, and he was good in his eyes. Aaron was right. Moses is now much calmer. Indeed, in one moment, he acknowledges Aaron as the expert, believes in his leadership, and understands that there is not just one leader of the Jewish people. It's really an extraordinary moment. After the death of Aaron's sons, the embarrassment of Moses, the stress from the past 8 days, the tumult of the ordination of the priest, and the tension of all that put together, One might say that both Moses and Aaron had a lousy, terrible, no good day. It's no wonder that right after this story, God commands Aaron and his sons not to touch any alcohol or be intoxicated in the least degree before coming to do the sacrifices. After all, on a day like they just had, I bet Moses and Aaron could have used a drink. But they responded to the terrible day by doing something extraordinary. Aaron went back to the tent of meeting and spoke with God. Following this, Moses and Aaron have a conversation with God where God tells them the kinds of foods they can and cannot eat. In other words, Moses, Aaron, and God all get past the terrible, lousy, and screwed up day and get on with the challenges of living. Instead of kvetching and complaining, as they certainly had a right to do, everyone focused on life and on the living, making the moments of the holy and choosing life even though the world seemed to be falling apart around them. There is such a valuable lesson in this episode and of Aaron and Moses' reaction to everything that happened. It is as if our Torah, which began with the words, "Let there be light," has transformed itself into, "Let there be life." And let that life not be one of just survival, but of meaning and holiness. So many people disparage the book of Leviticus because they deem it to be of ancient and meaningless descriptions of sacrifices. But that's hardly the case. In this story alone, we understand that even the greatest leaders have lousy days. And from their lousy day, they have taught us to never stay in the pit and wallow in self-pity. Life, we are told, is for the living. Moses and Aaron showed us what that meant. Through the pain of his loss, Aaron still sought holiness. Through the pain of his embarrassment, Moses grew to appreciate his brother's gifts. No one denied the reality of the pain, but neither did they dwell on it and immobilize themselves or the people. If you're my age or older, you may or may not remember an actor whose name was Hugh O'Brian. As a little boy, I watched a TV show he appeared in, 164 episodes, from 1955 to 1961 as Wyatt Earp. But today, his is a faded television memory. When he was interviewed about his career, he said, "I found out early that no matter who you are and no matter what business you are in, all of us go through 5 stages of life. The first stage is, who is Hugh O'Brian? This is where you begin your journey when you sow the seeds for success. The second stage is, get me Hugh O'Brian. That is when you have your first taste of success. The third stage is, get me a Hugh O'Brian type. That's when you are successful, when you're at the top of the ladder, when they cannot afford you, but they want somebody like you. The fourth stage is, get me a young Hugh O'Brian. We all grow old through the fourth stage. And the fifth stage brings us back to the first. Who is Hugh O'Brian? Who is? That's the question that brackets both ends of our lives. How we fill in the space between the brackets is something that Moses and Aaron have once again taught us. In the Talmud, Rabbi Shimon said there are 3 crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of kingship. But the crown of a good name excels them all. I look at this verse in light of Aaron's and Moses' terrible day, and I see that the crown of Torah is the crown that Moses wears. The crown of priesthood is Aaron's crown. And God's is, of course, the crown of kingship. But the crown of a good name excels them all, no matter how bad they all felt, and no matter how much of a right they both felt they had to just pack it in. Moses and Aaron and God continued to reach for the holy. They knew that what is holy is good, and what is good is always worth reaching for. Consider this story about Charles Steinmetz, famed electrical engineer, who invented over 200 devices in his lifetime. Puzzled scientists at a large corporation once called Steinmetz in to figure out the malfunctioning part of some complex machinery. He spent some time walking around the enormous machinery-filled room, examining everything carefully. Finally, he took out some chalk and marked an X on a particular part. The company engineers disassembled the machine and were amazed to find that he had found the precise location of the defect. Some days later, the company received a bill for $10,000 from Steinmetz. Now, this was in the early part of the 20th century when $10,000 was a fortune. Annoyed, the company president requested an itemized bill that Steinmetz obligingly sent back. It listed making one X in chalk, $1. Knowing where to place it, $9,999. You see, our lives are always a work in progress. Our striving for holiness, despite our failures, sins, and even our disinclination to do so, is one of the highest good we reach for. We need to know where to put the X's in our lives so that we can find the defects and work through them despite the pain we know we may have caused or the pain that we are in. Our tradition always looks toward the future, and that's the way it needs to be. At the beginning of the sermon, I quoted Ecclesiastes, who goes on and on about how pitiful life is and how the day of death is better than one's day of birth. There's good evidence to show that the book ended on a very low and sour and self-pitying note. But ending the book like that was simply not Jewish. And so before the book was voted into our Bible, the rabbis did something astounding. They turned it into a Jewish book by adding a couple of chapters. The added words that spoke of faith despite the sorrow, of choosing life over and especially after death, and of striving for holiness when all you feel is worthlessness. Those are the kinds of words they added. They did what Moses and Aaron did. They turned a terrible, no good, lousy day into something different, and in doing so, sought and found the holy. May all of us seek the holy, acquire the good name, and choose life and hope despite all the pain. And may we, like our rabbis, add chapters to our lives that speak of faith and holiness. For in doing so, we would be following in the footsteps of Moses, of Aaron, and of God. And to do that is to be in pretty good company. Shabbat Shalom. So we accept the difficulties, the pain, the challenges in our lives, and we strive to find the holiness and make good of it. And we can begin that by offering a prayer of healing for those who are in difficulty. So let's turn in our prayer books to page 253, where we continue now with our Mishaberach. I will. And as we offer this prayer, let us think of our friends, our family, those who are in need of healing of body and or of spirit. Chavalea Bat Esther, Gary Bandel, Daniel Bernstein, Gloria Bernstein, Lillian Bushell, Sloan Caston, Brian Church, Karen Coles, Chuck Curry, Cheryl Cutler, Casey Daskell, Mark Davis, John Day, Jaden Deal, Jill Gottlieb, Judith Dratler, Margot Engel, Bobby Fitchman, Herbert Fitchman, Jean Frankel, Rhoda Friedman, Stuart Fruman, Martin Edelman, Chavarena Bat Esther, Ellen Hedrick, Larry Horn, Paulette Howard, Irv Hurwitz, Stan Jacobson, Ira Kafka, Shirley Kafka, Gary Kane, Bonnie Kleinman, Michelle Kingen, Esther Rhoda Kaufman, Stuart Kruger, Gloria Land, Rochelle Liebman, Michael Stephen Linder, Michael Medoff, Yankel Yitzchak Ben Moshe, Barbara Newmark, Linda Greenblatt Newworth, Arnold Plotsky, Gloria Plotsky, Elliot Porwich, Mark Rosenberg, Howard Rosenbluth, Richard Rosenbluth, Chuna Ben Ruth, Moshe Ben Sara, Lexi Schlesinger, Jason Seidman, David Schwartz, Ezra Shashua, Diane Spiro, Gloria Spiro, Sivia Bat Liba Tamara, Barbara Weiss, and Ashley Weiss. And if you have a name of someone who is in need of healing, please feel free to announce it out loud or just keep it within your heart. Thanks, Jeff. Thank you. Misha Berach.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Imotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishet Beirach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Before we conclude with Aleinu and Kaddish, a special note of thanks to Miss Susan and to Miss Rachel, if the education thing doesn't work out.
I'll stick to the education thing, but thank you, Rabbi. I appreciate the offer.
And we hope and pray that Rabbi Keller and Cantor Muchnick are enjoying their wonderful time off. We're almost at Passover. Synagogue's offering a second Seder outside under our canopy in the courtyard. So seating is limited. So if you'd like to sign up, please go onto the website and sign up for the second night Seder. That's on April 16th. That's a Saturday evening. There will be no Friday night service on April 15th because that's Erev Pesach, the first night of Passover. You should hopefully be with family and friends in your homes making Seder. So enjoy that. I will commend to you to constantly check the synagogue website, pay attention to the emails that come your way so that you're abreast of all the wonderful activities and events that are happening here at the synagogue. Anything else we need to announce?
May I add one more?
Of course you can.
Absolutely. On April 24th, from 9 to 10:30 in the morning, out in our courtyard as well, we'll be having another of our coffee and conversation with our clergy. I definitely encourage you to join us. It's wonderful. We have a light spread, a nice conversation as well, which is actually leading to the outgrowth of a book club, actually from one of our topics. So definitely an inspiring conversation on how to bring Torah into your lives as well.
There you go. All right, so I want to thank everyone who showed up in the sanctuary this evening and those who joined us on our live stream. And let's continue now as we turn in our prayer books to page 282. We rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתקד ולעוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני המלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
echad. As we remain standing, we turn in our prayer books to page 294 for Kaddish Yatom. Zichronam livracha, may their memory be for blessing. We recall now our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have taken into our hearts with our own. Currently, the 30-day period of Shloshim is being observed for Don Mark Rubin, Melvin Cutler, and Lucy Shaffron. Yort sites at this season for Al Berkowitz, Louis Butel, Eli Coles, Mayor Draker, Eva Friedman, Robert Friedman, Helen Greenberg, Arnold Gunnar, Alice Kaplan, Nathan Kirstein, Theodore Levin, David Silverstein, Lori Wiseman, and Betsy Wides. If you have a name of someone you are remembering, please feel free to announce that name out loud as I look in your direction.
Arnie Davidson, Doris Jean Sherman, Judy Prizer Greengrass.
May their memories be for blessing as we join together in the words of the Kaddish prayer. Yitgadal v'yitgadash me rabbah, be'alma divra chirute ve'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, b'agalav izman kariv imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lomei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekutsha brechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the source of peace on high send peace and comfort to all who mourn and all the bereaved among us, and we say, amen. Have a seat, friends. We can turn back to page 24, where we conclude this evening with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi-Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi-Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh
Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech Malachei Amlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Just a reminder, we'll be back here next Friday night at 6:15 p.m., right?
First Friday of the month.
First Friday of the month.
6:15.
And tomorrow you can join us online on Zoom at 8:30 a.m. for our Torah learning service. Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, we pray, O God, that indeed we might be your messengers, manifesting your presence in the world for those who are in pain, for those who are challenged, for those who are ill. Help us, O God, to be your messengers, bringing the word of holiness, of goodness, of life and blessing, so that we might alleviate the pain and discomfort of our friends and family members. Oh God, may we continue to find solace, comfort, and strength in the words of your Torah, and help us, oh God, to bring those words to one and all. Bruchim atem bevoachem, we are blessed that we have come. Bruchim atem b'tzeidchem, may we be blessed now as we go forward from this gathering of the Lord. Amen. And Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much.
Shalom. I'm good. How are you? Nice to see you. Todd. Todd, how do you turn this off? We're working. Okay. And is the thing off?
What? Who knows? No connection.